Coming up, the rugby team enters the national championship looking for its three-peat as national champs. And both the men's and women's ice hockey team had big games over the break, including the latest chapter in the Quinnipiac-Yale rivalry. And later on, basketball season is now in full swing, and how are the Bobcats doing so far? It's 9:30 on a Monday night. Sports Paws starts right now. Welcome into Sports Paws. My name is Chris Stacy. We took a break last week for Thanksgiving, however, Quinnipiac Athletics did not. But don't worry, we got you covered. We start off with the fall sports, specifically the rugby team. It entered the weekend looking for the three-peat as national champs. After defeating Central Washington in the semis, the Bobcats faced a team that handed them their first loss of the season, Dartmouth. Quinnipiac had a chance to avenge the loss in the championship on its home field. Beat reporter Kyle Levasseur was there for the match.
The Quinnipiac women's rugby team has won 3 straight national championships. The back-to-back-to-back champs avenged their loss to Dartmouth with a 29-20 win at home on Sunday.
We started out of the gate wanting to win instead of getting off the bus and assuming that we were going to win. And that's something that we suffered from in the first time that we matched up against them. And it was actually one of those things where losing taught us more than winning ever could, because that was our motivation today. There's a big picture of the scoreboard of losing to Dartmouth from the second game of the season in our locker room. And we knew the only way to get back to them and actually have some kind of recourse was to see them in the playoffs, and it just ended up being in the championship. So it was poetic, but it was nice.
Senior Alona Marr was awarded MVP honors after scoring 5 tries and 2 assists on the weekend.
I think it's the best decision I've made to be able to transfer onto a team with such great players. I sometimes forget that I've only been here 3 years.
While the Bobcats have dominated the National Intercollegiate Rugby Association over recent years, it hasn't been as easy as Quinnipiac makes it look.
There isn't a level of an assumption that we were going to get the three-peat again this year. Nothing is going to get handed to you. You have to work every single day, every single training, and take it game by game. Just because you won the first national championship, just because you won the second, that does not mean that the third is going to get handed to you.
All of us came to the school because we were ready to do something great with this sport. To see how rugby's going to grow and to know that we had a little part in that is everything to me.
Quinnipiac's senior class graduates with an exclamation mark. Alona Marr, Flora Poole, Taylor Schuessler and company are confident in the program's future as well as the state of women's college rugby. Reporting from the Quinnipiac rugby pitch, Kyle Levasseur, Q30 Sports.
Great stuff right there, Kyle. Now we're going to welcome in Kyle. Kyle, it's great to see that smile of yours. I would be lying to say if I didn't miss it over break. How are you doing tonight?
Chris, I'm great. It's a little bittersweet now that rugby is over, but I'm doing excellent.
All right, like we said, we're going to talk some rugby. So first question I got for you, what was the biggest difference between this national championship game when they played Dartmouth to the difference from the first time they played them earlier in the regular season?
You know, Chris, I have 2 reasons, and to start, it really starts with the mental game. When they lost to Dartmouth earlier in the year, you got to know it's the second game of the season. Dartmouth's a young program. It's only their third season at the Division I level. And I just don't think they wanted the win as much as they expected the win. And that's what head coach Becky Carlson said after the championship game. The difference was that they wanted the win and that they were hungry to get that 3rd national championship in a row. When they played Dartmouth, it was almost an expectation that they were going to go ahead and start the season 2-0. Probably because of how dominant they've been the last 2 seasons. They've never lost to Dartmouth as well, and they were coming off a dominant win to start the regular season. All that combined with the fact that they were playing at home where they were undefeated this year was the difference in the national championship.
So this game was at home here in Hamden. They finally got a home field this year, and that's where the national championship was. Did the home field advantage for Quinnipiac in this final versus Dartmouth give them a slight advantage or maybe an unfair advantage?
Yeah, it definitely gave them an advantage. Whether it was fair or not, that's not for me to say. But I think it comes down to 2 things. One, they take pride in their new field. They didn't have a home field last year. They played all their games on the road. And they really love their field. Taylor Schuessler, who I'll be talking with on Bobcat Breakdown tomorrow night, really takes a lot of pride in it. She says it's beautiful playing there with Sleeping Giant there in the backdrop. They have all their friends and family there to support them, which is different when they're on the road, say in Central Washington. But also, it comes down to Becky Carlson just being a professional. She makes sure there's always 3 referees there at the games, which at other fields, sometimes there aren't 3 referees. And that translates to the players feeling like the game is going to be officiated fairly. And also, if you look at the media coverage there, Becky Carlson has said it's like the professional level. There's always about 10 reporters there after games, and it makes the players feel like they're also being taken seriously.
Now, Kyle, last question I have for you. Is this team the best team on campus?
Yeah, without a doubt, Chris. I don't see any other team being in the same ballpark as the Quinnipiac women's rugby team. Good teams, Chris, for me, rack up the wins. But when you look at the best teams, they get wins when they're faced with adversity. And no other team has been faced with the adversity that this women's rugby team has. The first year, according to Flora Poole after the national championship, the first time they won the finals, Flora Poole said it was to win recognition. The second time they won it, well, it was because it was memorable because they didn't have a home field, and they also beat Central Washington, who had gotten the better of them over the last couple years. This third time, it was almost an expectation that they were going to win. And really, to me, if they didn't win the national championship, I think everyone would have looked at it as the season was a failure. So when I don't know any other team on campus where you can look at the team and say, if they don't win the national championship, the season's a failure. I mean, that along with they just had a huge target on their back. The women's rugby team is clearly the best team on campus.
Well, rugby with the three-peat. Kyle, before I let you go, one more question, yes or no. I know you've been with this team for the entire season, so you know more than most. Do they get the four-peat next year?
Ooh, it's tough to say just yes or no. My gut wants me to say no just because of how much they're losing. You're losing Alona Marr, who's a senior and the best player in the country. You're missing Flora Poole, Taylor Schussler, Rebecca Haight. I mean, Jess Marisic, it just goes on and on. They're losing so much. It's going to be really difficult.
It will be definitely interesting to see. Thanks again, Kyle. Now we're going to move on to the winter sports. The Yale game, biggest game of the year, took place for the Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team. The hype was there for this game, whether it was the Q30 Bobcat game day coverage before the game or the students staying late from break to attend the game. The Bobcats took home the Heroes hat, beating the Bulldogs by a score of 3-0. This was the second ECAC win for the Bobcats as they beat Brown the night before. The next weekend, the Bobcats looked to continue their winning ways, but UMass stood in the way with a 2-game home-and-away series. The Minutemen swept the Bobcats, beating Quinnipiac 2-1 at home and then 6-3 on the road. The next game is down in Hobey Baker Rink in New Jersey for another ECAC game against Princeton on Tuesday. Now let's take a look at the USCHO.com polls. Quinnipiac, rough weekend. They didn't even get a vote. Now we got Denver up in the first place. They've been there most of the year. St. Cloud State followed. Clarkson, highest ECAC team there, followed by Notre Dame and another ECAC team in Cornell. And then to round out the top 10, you got North Dakota, Minnesota State, the Gophers, Big Ten team making an appearance there, Minnesota State, Providence, and then Western Michigan. And they missed the top 20. Now on to women's ice hockey. The women's ice hockey team went up to Storrs for the Nutmeg Classic. The Bobcats played Yale in the first game and beat them 2-1 in a shootout. The next game was against UConn and it was another shootout as well. It was also a score of 2-1. This is the 7th Nutmeg Classic that the women's team has won. Coming up on Sports Pub, we're going to take a quick break here. Moving to the hardwood as both basketball teams start their long-awaited season. And like always, we have the top 5 players of the week. Stay with us.
Hello, and tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired, and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. QCash is accepted.
Now that's a sandwich.
This is Sports Paws.
Are you concerned with the 0-2 start for this team?
Right here, top of the circle, again, rips it past the Jasper's goalie.
What will breaking the record mean for the program himself? I mean, 138 wins.
There's the tough shot. What a nice play by Mikey Dixon.
He's good in transition. Just a really dynamic scorer he can create for himself.
And now, Emma, it's time for the top 5 plays of the week.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Sports Paws is brought to you by Custom Cakes by Steve. If you can dream it, we can bake it. Hello again, thanks for sticking around. We teased basketball, so we got you covered with some Bobcat hoops. The women's team, remember that Sweet 16 run? Yeah, well the team revealed its banner for its Cinderella run last year in the NCAA tournament. Bobcats made it to the Sweet 16 after defeating Marquette and Miami on its home court. Quinnipiac then lost to the eventual champion, South Carolina. You see the banner right there. The banner looked cool and all, but the Bobcats had to refocus quickly as Northern Colorado was in town. Don't be fooled by this team, though. They're not a Power 5 school like Iowa or Ohio State, but the Bears did finish last season with an impressive record of 22-8. The Bears showed just why they had a strong season last year as they came out of the gate hot. They led until the third quarter when the Bobcats started to make their comeback to eventually win the game 60-49. The Bobcats were led by sophomore Vanessa Udoji. She finished with 14 points. The Bobcats are now 1-3 on the young season as they play host to Dayton tomorrow night. Now on to the men's team. The Bobcats took a trip down to Lynchburg, Virginia for the Paradise Jam at Liberty University. Quinnipiac had its first game in Colorado and was leading up until the last seconds when Colorado's McKinley Wright hit a 3 after Alan Chegan missed a free throw. Speaking of these free throws, Quinnipiac was 19 from 27 from the charity stripe, allowing Colorado to crawl back into the game late. Not all bad news for the Q, though. Cam Young had himself a day totaling 27 total points. Let's take a look at that game winner, actually. Right now we have that. You're going to see here, got to make your free throws if you're Quinnipiac. You're going to see Alan Chegan I think he's miss off the back iron, and then Colorado's going to corral the rebound and just bring it all the way down the court. Almost untouched, and he's just going to nail it off the lucky bounce right there. Celebration you see is key right there. The team mobs him down the court. Just such a heartbreaker for Quinnipiac. They had this one in the bag. After that heartbreaker, Bobcats moved on to play 2 more games, both losses. The first game was against Wake Forest, and the Demon Deacons took care of business, defeating the Bobcats 72-55. As you can see here, some of the stats. Chase Daniels led with 12 points and 4 rebounds, but just nothing doing against this SEC team. Now on to the hometown Liberty Flames. The Flames burned the Bobcats, beating this one by a score of 84-72. Quinnipiac leaves the Paradise Jam with a record of 0-3. You can see his stats from this game. Cam Young also had another good game. Rich Kelly also adding 18 points, but again, Liberty with that home court advantage, just too much for the Bobcats. After the Paradise Jam, the Bobcats came home to clash with Maine. Quinnipiac looked dead in the water after the first half as they were losing by 23 points. However, Quinnipiac came all the way back in the second half, but it ran out of time as they fell to the Black Bears 78-72. Now it is time for the top 5 plays of the week. Special edition this week, it is the top 5 plays of the rugby season. Let's roll it. Top 5 plays. Not enough plays for top 5. We're going to start off with an honorable mention here, and it is Alona Marr, deep in her own territory, just going to run by all these AIC defenders, going to break some tackles. One more defender to beat, no chance. She is going to take it to the house. She's going to take it all the way. 5 points on the try. We're going to move on to number 5 here. This is Taylor Schuler. There was a nice stiff arm you're going to see to another AIC defender. No chance for the defender there, and she's going to take it in for the easy 5, not so easy 5 points, excuse me. Play number 4. It is Alona Marr again. She's opening the running field, and she's going to carry this defender, as Kyle Lavaster like to call her, a spider monkey. Just a pure power right there. Number 3, Alona Marr once again. She's going to take, this is a quick one, but she is going to run through the entire team, it seems like, for the 5 points. Nothing comes easy here for Quinnipiac. Play number 2, Flora Poole with some trickery right here. She's going to fake the toss, break some tackles, and eventually end in the try zone. Very, very cheeky play there. Play number 1, Emily Roscoff. Pure speed, just runs by the entire Penn State team. Another one person to beat. No chance. She's going to take this all the way. What a season for this women rugby team. They're going to three-peat, like I said. It's going to be interesting to see if they can do it again next year. That is all the time we got for you for today. To stay up to date on all things Quinnipiac sports, make sure you follow us on social media at Q30 Sports and check out all our content on our website at www.q30tv.com. For everyone behind the scenes and the producing staff, I'm Chris Stacy. Make sure you tune in next week for the last show of the Sports Paws of the semester. Same time, same place. You have a great night, Bobcats.